Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do, well, in this case we're gonna take this old Mustang, parts of a Mustang. We're gonna get it into the shop. It's raining right now, not very hard, but it is winter and it's gonna start raining. So since last time I've thrown a battery in this thing. Just my jumper battery that I use to jump cars. I dumped a little bit of fuel down the carburetor, hooked up my acetone container, and then the steering column wasn't in it, so I grabbed that out of the wine cellar, aka my basement, and then I put a custom Nardo steering wheel on it, and I put, look at that, just a portioning valve. This is fancy. And I put one bolt in the rag joint there. So I'm thinking we're good. Nothing else needed. In case any of you've not figured that out, I don't have a videographer. It's just me. Trusty tripod. Alright, let's see what we got here. That's a good view of the dashboard. Yeah, as long as I don't take any corners too hard, should be good. What did I do with my car key? Oh, here it is. Alright, so this is to the positive side of the coil. Power. Okay, so that didn't go quite as planned. A little water coming out of there, probably because that lower hose is the radiator's leaking or it's not tight. I don't know. That's not the problem. The problem is transmission doesn't have any drive. So. And it's really hard to steer because, unbeknownst to me, yeah, not power steering pump. Never noticed that. Makes sense. 6-cylinder automatic car. Probably didn't come with power steering. Okay, so we're gonna go to plan. I don't know if this is B or C. It's a different plan. It's a new plan. Stay tuned. Okay, so I was able to drag this Mustang to its final resting position. Well, hopefully not final. And I tried to tow it up the hill with this, but it just has a traction problem. So I MacGyvered up this solution. I unlocked that wheel. It has like a locking mechanism, so you can unlock and lock, so you can turn it easier. So, got that hooked to the shackle over there. And then, good old capstone equation. As soon as that gets a couple of wraps around there, it'll have a lot of grip. And then, I got it tied to the post. So, it's going to put a little torque on it, but whatever. Might work. Alright, welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is build this Mustang. So I got this thing in the shop. Sorry for the yelling. It's raining outside and the roof is made out of metal. So yeah, I really haven't had a chance to look over this thing too much since I bought it. Just kind of pushed it off the trailer and forgot about it for a year and a half or more. So It's looks like they replaced some sheet metal. Not that great of a job. Those welds look terrible. This piece looks new. Welds look terrible again. Got brand new tires, Magnum 500s. These will be for sale if anybody wants. The old shackle kit when your springs are fucked up. Oh, and Gabriel hijackers. Those are going in the bin, I'm sure. Drum brakes on the rear. This looks like an 8-inch Ford differential. Automatic transmission, which I don't know, it doesn't seem to work. I don't remember fuel lines going like that ever. Looks like somebody's been in here replacing that poorly. And I get a brand new set of vice grips. Okay, slightly pre-used set of vice grips. Now, it looks like somebody put that fuel line on and never connected it. So, it's just fine, but I don't remember this being... That looks like a good way to get snagged on something. I don't think that's how it's supposed to go. Could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Looks like somebody put disc brakes on this thing. I think all this junk is new. Brakes, upper control arms, lower control arms. Maybe the Pitman arms, hard to say. Manual box. But it doesn't look too rusty under here. But a lot of undercoating. It seems like the floors have been, it's hard to say, but it seems like the floors have been fucked with. That's just fine. It's 50-year-old and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's British undercoating or American undercoating. American undercoating is made out of rubber. British undercoating is made out of the leaking oil from the engine and mixing that with road grime and whatnot. Anyway, this is what she looks like. I have a feeling this is where the floor was replaced. This looks different than this. And this doesn't look very connected. It looks connected on this side, but not so connected over here. So I think this driver's side front pan has been replaced and the passenger side rear pan. That's weird. Anyway, no big deal. This is what you get when you buy an old car. And this car is old. Okay, I'm back. So, I disassembled a bunch of stuff off of the car. And I pulled the gas tank out. There's a bunch of junk that was in the trunk, so a lot of this stuff is just in the trunk. There's the fuel tank. There's the fuel from the fuel tank. Smells, yeah, a little bit right. Radiator. This is the stuff that I may or may not use, like some brackets or something. I'll use those taillights, but yeah, this is all garbage. That's mostly garbage. These are the rear window. I'll see if anybody wants them. There's some suspension components and crap like that that I won't need. And I got the exhaust off. Didn't break any manifold studs, so yeah. And flow stoppers. Yeah, they were really flow stoppers. 2.5-inch pipe down to 1 3/4 inch. I did find some not so great stuff. Nothing horrible, but obviously the person working on this didn't know what they were doing. That is not right. Well, I can use that anyway, but this is a little bit concerning here. Get a little light on the subject. I mean, it looks like somebody went through and put all new suspension on this, and that bolt is probably tight. Maybe not, I don't know, but it definitely is gapped. So, yeah, should look more like that one. Anyway, I'm not going to use any of this stuff anyway, but it looks like somebody bought the good stuff. See if somebody wants any of this stuff. It's probably all new. Those look like brand new discs. I mean, they're rusty rotors and stuff, but another thing back here that wasn't great, they had air shocks on it, and they had like red wrappers holding the air lines on and tying it around the brake lines, which are pretty crappy looking too. But anyway, I don't use any of that, so it's okay. This was a brand new fuel line that wasn't super good, but pretty clean under here. I mean, not clean, but all the normal places for rust, it doesn't have them. So this is a big concern though. Somebody put a new floorboard in here, and that is not supposed to have a 3/4 inch gap. It should look like that side, not that side. I can stick my finger in there. So we'll fix all that. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at. First day working on it. The room wasn't built in a day, something. So keep you posted. Okay, getting this thing blown apart some more. Get the export brace off of there, and the Monte Carlo bar. It looks like these are brand new, everything up here. Shocks. The only thing not new is the springs. I mean, these guys put upper and lower control arms. Looks like these spindles, the brakes. I guess they thought the wheel would be the cover for that, because yeah, that doesn't actually work. That doesn't actually work as a cover. Anyway, yeah, no real new surprises. I'm gonna pop the front suspension out of this thing. We'll get the motor and transmission out of here. We'll get this thing on some scales, see what the body actually weighs, and then we'll get it hitched up to the rotisserie and off to the sandblaster. It's going to be a waste of effort to sandblast all the stuff I'm going to remove, but we'll see what we can do about that. Maybe they'll sandblast just the stuff I'm going to leave. I think they probably can do that, but we'll see. Okay, so shock's disconnected up here. However, you get the spring off, so a whole box of spring compressors of various quality. Okay, I've left the spring on, or the shock on until now. That's like a containment device. If anything goes wrong, that spring can't really fly out. Probably those as well. And there's a shock. KYB. Funny story. in engineering school, K is the spring rate, Y is the travel, and B is the damping ratio. And that's what KYB shocks stand for. Which I always thought was cool, being a geeky engineer. You don't have to though. If you're not an engineer, you don't have to like it. Do we have enough? And there you have it. One live grenade. Okay, a little bit more progress here. I got the springs off both sides. Viola. And now I'm just connecting the brake. The brake booster here. So there's supposed to be 4 bolts holding it in. There's, well, nuts actually. There's studs coming out of the brake booster. So I took 2 of them off. Weren't particularly tight. And this is how much it moves after taking 2 of the 4 bolts off. And if I go down here, poke around a little bit, and that one doesn't have a stud, so maybe you can see that. And there's another one over there that's not very tight. Yeah, this car, the other thing that I found wrong was I pulled the brake switch off. This guy here. There's supposed to be a little clip. That wasn't there, so that could have just fallen off while trying to put the brake on. So this car was not put together by somebody who knew what they were doing. And it's probably not unique. So when you buy an old Mustang and it looks all shiny on the outside, or Cougar or Chevelle or whatever, yeah, you should look at it yourself or take it to somebody you trust to make sure that shit like this is not part of the problem. Okay, a little bit more progress. So yeah, what have I done since the last video? Well, the steering column's out, the throttle cable linkage is out, the brake booster's out, the alternator pulleys are out. Alright, yeah, starter's off, drive shaft's off. This is 279 gears according to the tag, and I rotated around, seems about right. I came up with 277.7 by guessing, so that seems about right. So new brake cables are off up here, little linkagey things, boundary cables off, shift linkage is off. The mounts for the transmission are out. These are just like loose in here. So took the inspection cover off, took the bolts out of the flex plate. So I should be able to just slide the motor forward a few inches and lift it straight out, and then I'll pull the transmission out of the bottom. Turns out this is a 289. According to this number, C5AE, that means it's a 1965 block. They didn't make 302s till 68. Well, I guess it could be a 260 as well. I'm not an expert on those numbers. I just know CDE, that's the decade, and then the number is the year. So these motor mounts are out as well. These bolts are gone out of here. So this thing should just lift right out. I only found a few more dangerous things. I noticed earlier that this bolt wasn't tight. Well, it turns out this one's not tight either. Both of those hold the caliper on, so whoever's putting the caliper on got distracted by something. Beer time or a cute girl walked by, I don't know what it was, but something, and you can see the light in between there. There is no, yeah, there's like a half-inch gap to the floor on that side. So somebody did a pretty shoddy job of putting floors in it, which is really odd. It's a California car. I don't know why it would have needed floors unless they ran something over and put a big bash in it, because they replaced the driver's side front floor and the passenger side rear floor, and this radiator support's been replaced as well. This is new and this is new, so I'm not sure if it got in a wreck or something, but that doesn't really concern me too much. It's a solid car with a nice VIN number, clean title, it's all good. I'm gonna throw away everything but the shell anyway, or sell it to people that want it. Pretty sure there's more stuff I removed since, yeah, giant pile of parts, which will go into the wine cellar in case I need them. Probably won't. So my next step is pull the motor out and transmission out, and then I'll get the front suspension out. The reason I don't pull the rear end out, because that could pop out of here, is I'm afraid if I take all the weight off of the rear, the motor in the front will make it ass over tea kettle, but probably not. But and then I'll get the trunk lid off, and then get this thing mounted up on the rotisserie and off to the blaster, because nobody wants to work on a car that looks like that. It's disgusting. There's probably 50 pounds of undercoating and seam sealer and shit on there. So anyway, that's where we are. Yeah, so we're just about ready to wrap this thing up and get it on the rotisserie. So I got all the electrical harness out of there. I think I got like 95% of the bolts out of it. I still got the trunk to remove, and the rear axle, and the front suspension, and obviously the motor and tranny's got to come out. One of the things that was a bit of a challenge is getting these guys out. I got one of the 4 bolts out with a screwdriver, but the other ones are just really stuck. So that one I had to drill out. And my cordless drill is charging, so we'll tack that a little later. There's a couple little pieces like this. I'm going to take it to the sandblaster with literally every bolt that I can remove removed. Contemplating pulling the floor out, because I'm not going to use this floor. It's been cobbled, so I'll get a new floor for it, but I kind of want to leave it in for structural reasons when I put it on the rotisserie, because it's going to be held from all the way in the front and all the way in the back, so I don't want to really take that structure out, but I also don't want to have them have to sandblast all that tar off the bottom of it, so I'm still contemplating that. The motor's, yeah, ready to come out. Just needs those 2 bolts for the bell housing. There's 6 total, but the other 4 are already out, and those are loose, ready to go. Brake lines and throttle linkage are trapped by the motor, but as soon as the motor and transmission come out, those will. And then I got the wheels and tires still attachable, so I can roll this thing around. I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to need it, but I wanted to make sure if I needed to get this motor out of here. I'm in kind of a tight space, so essentially a 1-car garage space. You don't include the machine shop and lift for the Bronco, right? So I may need to roll this thing back a little bit to get more room to get this thing out and loaded. And whatever lucky person wants this 289. Lucky person. These are here just to make sure this chain doesn't decide to exit stage left. It should pick up pallets, but it'll pick up anything you want. As long as it's less than 2,000 pounds. Alright, those mission bolts out of there. Alright, so I have no idea how balanced this thing is, but we shall find out. Probably a good idea to disconnect this dipstick from the transmission. You always forget one thing. As long as you don't try to lift the entire car with that one thing, you're good to go. Alright, so we have separation. Back a tiny bit, and straight out from the top. Show you what we got here. So you can see the torque converter stayed attached to the engine like we want. That's nothing. It's supported on a jack. And motor mounts are clear, so up and away. Only takes 5 minutes to remove a motor. As long as you do the 6 hours of disconnecting things prior. And there we have it. Beauty. Okay, so the motor's out. Put it on a roller end chingadera. Now I'm about to take the transmission out. So what I've done, put a ratchet strap around it up to the structure of the body up there, and a ratchet strap around it going through the transmission tunnel floor shifter hole. So now the only thing holding it in is lock. No, those two ratchet straps. So I'm gonna drop the car down onto these jack stands, and then I will disconnect the ratchet straps from up top and lift the car up, and I'll have an engine, I have a transmission sitting on a stand. It'll be magical. Or something. Oh yeah. It's on the ground. No worries. Except for all the transmission fluid leaking out of it. It's kind of what I wanted to avoid, but... Alright, a little bit bigger pile of parts now. Engine and transmission are out. So now I'm going to get all this front suspension off. So that little guy, lower control arms, upper control arms, motor mounts, cross member. That'll all come out in one lump. And same thing with this differential. Pop these shackle bolts off. Drop it on the ground. And that'll at least be rollable. So, and then the trunk. And then I think we're ready to put it on the rotisserie and get it off to the sandblaster. First milestone, but an important one. Okay, so I removed the entire front suspension in one lump. Steering box, pitman arm, tie rod, brakes, brake calipers, upper controller arms, and strut. All gone. This is all, I think, brand new. Everything here is, well, these guys probably weren't brand new, but it looks like the rest of the shit is brand new. I would probably go through it, but I imagine it's good. I probably have the receipts for it. You can tell you the exact part numbers and stuff. So I won't be using any of that stuff, so if you want it, it's probably available. One other piece of information is this thing apparently used to be a manual car, because it's got the pivot for the clutch right there. The thing right there is what the Z-bar pivots on. There's another hunk that goes into the, like the side of the engine block, the pivot on it. So I did notice when I pulled the brake, the pedal box out, essentially there was a bushing in the pedal box for a clutch, but no clutch pedal. So I think somebody converted this car from manual to an automatic, which backwards, but it's going back to manual. Yeah, this is looking pretty rough still, but a few more things to take out. I got to get these motor mounts out of here, that cross member, and then the rear axle's got to come out. Already got the shackle bolts loose, so that should be a pretty easy deal. And yeah, this thing's looking like it's looking stripped. Before I send it off to the blaster, I'm going to do a bunch of 3D scanning on it, and I'm going to weigh the body so I can have something in my spreadsheet on how much the body weighs and the weight distribution of it, and then I can in CAD I can weigh parts and put them in my spreadsheet and figure out what the weight and balance is. I'm shooting for 55 on the rear axle, 45 in the front, because that adds to 100. So, and it should weigh around 2950 if my spreadsheet's right. But of course that's subject to change. Everything seems to end up heavier than it should, but I'm going to do my best to make it lighter than that. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So this is going to be the end of this particular video. This thing is stripped down to nothing. I don't think there's a single bolt on this thing that is holding anything on, or a screw. Yeah, I'm sure I'm wrong, but I do want to weigh it, but I started chipping off some undercoating from right there. It's like a ½ inch thick in some spots, which is good. Like underneath it's super tidy. Unfortunately, what I did find, somebody's been in here doing some shitty repairs. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know why that would have been rusty or fucked up there, but there's a bunch of MIG wire hanging out. Yeah, so anyway, that's pretty easy patch panel fix. But yeah, next thing I'm going to do is get this thing and probably remove those rubbers on the shackle there. But yeah, see what this thing weighs, get it on the rotisserie, get it sandblasted. And then we'll get to some more fun work on, like, I mean, demo's fun. Again, all these pieces I'm not going to use, so I'm not sure that transmission's any good or what it is. Looks small for a C4, but maybe it is. Maybe it's a Cruise-O-Matic, I don't know. Looks awful little. Looks like it came out of a 6-cylinder. Anyway, not sure if that's a 289 or a 260. I may blow it apart and sell it as pieces. but it does run. But I wouldn't put it in a car until I, you know, tore it down and checked everything, put new head gaskets on it, yada yada yada. Right? You just never know. Like the freeze plugs could be, you know, rusted out. So you pull it apart, you put all that stuff in there. It costs pennies, relatively. So yeah, it's not terrible. There's some surprises, but and I kind of knew about that when I looked at it, but not terrible. From a West Coast car, I kind of expected this, but I think it's better than I expected even. So, onward and upward. Welcome to the channel, where all you have to do is build this Mustang. So, I got my scales out this morning and put this thing on the scales. This is how I set it up. I put one scale in the rear. You kind of still see where the block was sitting there. Not quite centered. And then I put another block under here, or scale under here, another scale under here. And it's like 600 pounds. 53% on the rear axle. Well, at the rear axle. And slightly less on the front. So now that that's done, we're going to get this thing on the rotisserie. I built this thing a few months ago, and it's just been kind of sitting under the Bronco. So I may have to make some brackets or something. I haven't really scienced out. I think the rear is going to be pretty easy because it's got bumper. It's got some bumper bolts in here that I think I can utilize, and that's probably a fairly structural part. The front doesn't really have bumper brackets. I mean, it's got these bolts that the bumper brackets bolt to, so I'll probably utilize those, but we'll have to see. I may need to fab something up. Okay, so this one's sorted. I still haven't drilled holes in there, but this guy's sorted. One of the other things I've done is measured from the pivot point to the edge of the car and the pivot point to that bar, and make sure that that is bigger than to the edge of the car. Otherwise, when you tip it over, this is going to crunch into that. Which I want to get it as low as I can, for many reasons. So I may actually put those in upside down, so the bolt's sticking out of the bottom. It'll be a little bit less convenient to play with, but I get another inch of clearance to those bolt heads, so I can drop it a little bit. So this is what I've done. This thing had like fancy Gabriel hijackers and some extended shackles. So I went into my steel scrap bin, dug those back out, and I'm going to drill a hole in here so it ties in this to here, and then I'm going to weld this spacer to this, and then there's a through bolt going all the way through with a big old washer on it. So that should suffice, and the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to pop this back apart, blow a hole in that, spark weld that guy to that, and this should be super tidy. Seems good. Okay, so got this all fabbed up. Got a 1/2 inch bolt there, a little short guy, and then a long guy there. It's actually the shackle bolt. Big old washers on the inside. So this should be a good support. So all I have to do next is to do a couple of measurements. make sure I have the height the same on both of them. And yeah, I think we'll be rotating here so pretty soon. Well, got all my fingers. And the car's on its side. Look at that. Whole different perspective on things. Should be way easier to work on it now. So, a couple of things that I did that be helpful. So I started out with a guess on where the weight and balance was. It's hard to see now, but that little mark is where it was originally. And I moved the car up, like, I don't know, 2 inches there. And I did the same thing on the front, except for I moved it a little bit less. Moved it that much, because it was like 1 degree off, so. It still takes a little bit of effort to get it. It wants to go back to its normal position, floor pan down. But I can use that bar and move it pretty easily. I may adjust it a little bit more so it's even easier, but right now it's pretty good. So, as you can imagine, working on this thing while standing inside here is going to be phenomenally easier. I'm going to do a couple of rollovers to get all of this crap out and big old thick pieces of undercoating and stuff, but yeah. This is good. This is a long time in the coming. So yeah, I can get busy now. Well, first thing it's going to do is go to the sandblaster. Get all this blasted out of here. I may do some scraping on it's got a lot of undercoating, so I may scrape the big chunks off and big greasy junk, and yeah, that's all undercoating. It's that big gap that's supposed to look like that. This is from poorly executed floor replacement. So that was a little more light now. You can kind of see what I got. It's pretty solid car, except for the places where they did some patchy stuff. But yeah, this is nice. And I'm not ruining classic. This is the strippoest of strippo Mustangs. Coupe, vinyl interior, three on the tree, no, 3 on the floor, and a 6-cylinder, 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder. So the lowest option car you could conceivably buy in that year. I guess you could have got a Falcon. So this is an improvement over that. I'm gonna have to do some frame rails. These are not gonna be enough. So they're gonna have to, I may remove the entire frame rails, but because 315's on the back of here, all this junk's gonna have to go away. It's all IRS instead of live axle, so this inner structure probably gonna go away. Yeah. But this was my accomplishment for the day. That's what I wanted to get accomplished. Got it done. Off to the sandblasters, and well, I'm going to do some 3D scanning of it as well. Maybe that'll be my next video, because I can't really start in CAD yet until I get a pretty somewhat accurate idea of where everything lives. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.